Welcome. I'm Karen Marsdale on staff at the Greater Reading Chamber Alliance. And welcome to another episode of Chamber Spotlight. And we are here today with a great member of the Chamber, someone who I've had the opportunity to hear from on a platform, Tom Rhoads, who is an executive coach and consultant to companies, to individual professionals, and has done some work for us here at the GRCA. And Tom, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
It's great to see you again. So, you know, it's interesting because you've had a long and established career. It says in your bio that, you know, one of the things that keeps coming up is, you know, this whole idea of innovation, entrepreneurship, how to bring new products and services to market, doing a lot around this, you know, this leadership and development, and I don't like to use the word training because I think you train dogs and you sort of lead people. And
I'm working on that right now with a foxhound. That's a challenge. Yeah.
Oh yes, I've been there too. You've had long-term engagements with companies like IBM, John Deere, Harley-Davidson, Anheuser-Busch, Xerox. Those are pretty
nice companies.
Those are pretty nice companies to say that you've been affiliated with, and you know, in all of this work that you're doing, which you know, are the skills that are needed are really, you know, a lot of like emotional intelligence and people training and skills that are you know, not necessarily one, as I look at your background, that you were a biology major.
Yeah.
So, you know, it goes again to show that people can oftentimes find their passion, and then their passion becomes their profession in places that not necessarily we were led to in our earlier either careers or education.
Right.
So, how did you get from biology major to what you're doing today, what you've done for the last, you know, number of decades?
I think there are some common threads. One of my first jobs back in high school and college was teaching kids how to swim and swim competitively.
Oh.
And a little cool township pool called Ken Grill became very competitive. But the lessons, the life lessons, and the interactions with not just the swimmers, and watching them, you know, a little 8-year-old who can't swim basically one lap, and then by the end of the summer they're swimming butterfly and competing, the joy in their faces and the joy in the community. It was a very diverse community. People were bringing not just cupcakes afterwards, they were bringing halishkis, they were bringing Italian sausages. Oh my gosh, it was an ethnic pool of like a real rich diversity. That experience was very, very moving for me. And I went into the environmental consulting field, and I did have the pleasure of working and consulting with businesses in the Reading area, like Arrow International, Precision Medical Products, companies like East Penn and Carpenter Technology, and a lot of little businesses around us, and they're not so little. But it was an interesting watching what helped businesses grow, what held them back. And one of the common themes, and even, you know, my own career progression from technical to project management to being a director of a large company to being now a president of a company, some of the most profound guidance came from two people. One was Art Haberberger, CEO of a number of businesses, but most notably Horgan. And he shared with me the principles that hold the organizations back. Ultimately, it's not the finance, it's not the capitalization, although Art knew everything about balance sheet.
Yeah, he
did.
It
was time. And time's a function of leadership. It's a time of how we interact. It's our relationships and trust and a lot of other factors that dig into that. Another contribution to my life was my volunteer work through the Chamber as an environmental consultant with Tony Grimm and a lot of the other businesses that were contributing to the small businesses. And what a wonderful experience that was. But you know, one of the spirits that Tony taught and modeled was you contribute, you let go of the results, you contribute, you offer, you invite. And those are some of the guiding principles into how I work with individuals. I don't judge people, I don't correct people, I don't tell them what to do. But I've learned to listen, which goes largely against my own natural tendencies, but I also find that that's where I help people to open up the way that they listen, to help them listen for things that they may have been missing and information that they've been missing, and that helps them make better use of time. So I think most people work hard. I think most people really care about their businesses and so forth. But unwittingly, they're in their own way. And so if I can help them really multiply their results without having to work longer or harder, or to remove some of that frustration and put more ambition and more like enthusiasm for the future, what a day.
That's so true. And sometimes I know I was just talking with actually someone who's in the human resources field yesterday late afternoon, and we were just talking about how so often companies get in their own way, particularly the lead, small, medium, or large. The lead CEO is kind of getting in the way of the progression, sort of letting their people own what they are doing, and then they become like these rock stars that you didn't know you had around you because you didn't give them the opportunity. So I think it's got to be from your side of the equation. When you see the light bulb go off and the aha and the change in the environment and culture of a company.
Right.
And I just think it's fascinating that you kind of went from this environmental safety to sort of this holistic approach or scope of because you can be very sort of targeted in that world of safety and environmental.
I've had some great fortune, Karen, and I'll use some examples that help people relate. One of the things that I was fortunate to do is I led a project called Goldfish Crackers. I was part of Goldfish invention and the rollout from Pepperidge Farm.
Yes.
And the way that the Pepperidge Farm executives and engineers worked and collaborated across different disciplines was pretty remarkable.
Oh,
and that contrasted to the parent company, Campbell Soup, at the time.
Uh-huh.
I've worked with companies like IBM, who was the #1 polluter in all of New York, and I helped them figure out how not to pollute and to save money at the same time. But there's some silver threads, and I can identify what are those things that people don't see, but if they could see it, oh my gosh, they want to remove it. So they're self-discovering and they're learning the truth about themselves. It's like a way of helping people find their own truth and make their own choices, which is different than the old consulting, Tom. You need to do this and this, and so I'm not advising. I'm just kind of laying out there through a layered series of questions that when people get a taste of those little breakthroughs, they get an appetite, then that accelerates through every relationship they have.
Wow, and that just becomes such a powerhouse for those who reach that and understand it. And you brought up something really interesting, because how many times have I been into companies and they've talked about consultants, and then that's sort of like in a negative connotation, as you
I felt that before.
Yeah. So you're like, I'm the non-consultant consultant, because it's really not about saying this is what you need to do and this is what you need to do, but this is how we could do this together, and then how you make meaning that employee, that manager, that CEO, you make them
see their success.
See their success, and then in charge of their own destiny.
Right.
And you've got to give them that aha moment, which is, it's got to be very, very rewarding. And I'm thrilled that you brought up something that really the chamber early on. With Tony Grimm, who was CEO 2 CEOs ago, brought to bear, because I know that was Tony. I mean, he was one who brought people together. It was about giving back. And always when giving back, you find that, what, you're giving back tenfold.
Tony reminds me of a lot of, like a principle that I see in a lot of the chamber ongoing today. And the engineer in me puts it in an equation. It's like if an organization or if a leader wants to grow results, then we've got to look at relationships, because results is a function of relationship. You take on relationships, so go your results. And that may be contrary to what people are looking for. They're trying to, nothing against branding, but sometimes we're trying to brand our way to greater success.
Right,
We're trying to look for the strategy, and sometimes it's relationships and it's a culture.
And that's so true, and I think today, and I know we have to wrap up, but interestingly, because, the world is so flat, we can look and find and see a lot of things about companies, and so what they brand that they are and what they really do, you can sometimes find that out very, very quickly. And someone just mentioned that to me about a company that had been branded to be this great company to work for, and all of the positives. And when they got sort of inside without even having to work there, they found that it was not what they had said it was.
And that'll boomerang.
And then that boomerangs, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, it's been a pleasure. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Karen, for the invitation. Good to be with you.
I know
today.
we never have enough time to talk to, we could go on for hours about so many of these things, but I do appreciate you being here.
My pleasure. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.